The evolution of modern warfare, from trenches to drones. How has warfare changed over time and what does it look like today? The way governments and armies conduct war has changed significantly over time, from the earliest hand-to-hand combat to the development of advanced weapons and technology. The battlefield of today is not just confined to geographical locations but also encompasses the online world. Welcome to the History Hub, subscribe, and let's dive in. What new types of warfare will develop as technology develops further? Join me as I explore the significant turning points and technologies that have influenced how we battle as we travel through the history of contemporary warfare. Numerous technological developments have shaped the development of contemporary warfare, each altering how wars are waged. Let us examine the important turning points that have shaped the battlefield in chronological order, starting with the usage of trenches in World War I and ending with the employment of drones in contemporary battles. Trench warfare is warfare in which opposing armed forces attack, counterattack, and defend from relatively permanent systems of trenches dug into the ground. It is resorted to when the superior firepower of the defense compels the opposing forces to dig in so extensively as to gain protection. The tactical ancestor of modern trench warfare was the system of progressively extended trenches developed by the French military engineer Sébastien Le Priester de Vauban for the attack on fortresses in the 17th century. The trench lines of the Petersburg-Richmond theater of operations in the final months of that war were the foremost example of trench warfare in the 19th century. When armies of millions of soldiers confronted one another in a line of trenches that stretched from the Belgian coast through northeastern France to Switzerland during World War I, trench warfare attained its pinnacle growth. The trench system was made up of 2, 3, 4, or more parallel trench lines that were at least 1 mile, 1.6 kilometers, deep. In addition to machine gun emplacements and dugouts deep enough to protect soldiers from an enemy bombardment, it had command posts, forward supply dumps, first aid stations, kitchens, and latrines. The outpost line, which was guarded by machine gunners concealed behind dense tangles of barbed wire, was the first line of trenches in World War I. A parallel succession of 2, 3, or 4 lines of trenches comprising the majority of the defending troops served as the main line of defense. To prevent the enemy from making a breakthrough at any one site, the Germans created trench systems that got deeper and stronger over time. Due to the tank's immunity to the machine gun and rifle fire that served as the trench's primary defense, the Allies' growing deployment of tanks in 1918 signaled the beginning of the end of trench warfare. Blitzkrieg. A military strategy known as the Blitzkrieg employs elements of surprise, speed, and material or weaponry superiority to cause psychological shock and disarray among the opposing force. Although its roots can be found in the 19th century, Nazi Germany during World War II is the instance with which it is most frequently identified. In his landmark book on war, 1832, Karl von Clausewitz advocated the Schwerpunktprinzip as a way to stop wasting human resources. D-Day, when American troops fired guns, threw grenades, and waded ashore on Omaha Beach, was a significant event in World War II. On June 6, 1944, the Second World War's Normandy invasion began. The Kesselschlacht concept, which comprised a frontal attack immobilizing the opponent while forces on the flanks completed a double envelopment, was proposed by J.F.C. Fuller and Sir Basil Liddell Hart. The enemy army was forced to choose between devastation and capitulation once it was surrounded. Germany deployed a land and air combined strategy known as the Blitzkrieg against Poland in 1939, and throughout the Spanish Civil War. To trap and disable enemy forces involved a dividing drive on a constrained front and extensive sweeps by armored vehicles. Invading France, Belgium, and the Netherlands successfully in 1940 required the adoption of Blitzkrieg strategies, which Erwin Rommel also applied to his campaigns in North Africa's deserts. The Kessel campaign against the British paratroopers in Arnhem, the Netherlands, during the Normandy invasion, was effective. The strategic and tactical ideas that had first helped Germany succeed ultimately led to its defeat. Israeli forces combined air and ground assaults during the Six-Day War, the Yom Kippur War, and the Persian Gulf War were later examples of Blitzkrieg tactics. Nuclear bomb. The fission of the nuclei of a heavy element like plutonium or uranium produces a quick release of energy, which gives rise to the explosive capability of an atomic bomb. The main fissionable components of atomic bombs are uranium-235 and plutonium-239, Uranium-235 itself cannot cause a chain reaction. To transition fissionable material from a subcritical to a critical state, fission bombs are used. This can be accomplished either through implosion or by firing two subcritical slugs of fissionable material together in a hollow tube using high explosives. The fission explosion can also be boosted using tampering and boosted fission technologies. Nuclear weapons produce a fireball, a powerful shock wave, and thermal energy. Due to the significant amounts of neutrons and gamma rays they generate, atomic bomb radiation poses a serious threat to the environment. Strontium-90 and plutonium-239 are two examples of radioactive trash that is carried by winds in the troposphere or stratosphere. In the first few weeks following the explosion, exposure to the fallout can be fatal and raise the risk of acquiring cancer. We all know the major incidents of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Guerrilla warfare. Guerrilla warfare is a style of conflict in which unorthodox military and police forces or opposing rebel forces are engaged, as well as national war, little wars, revolutionary warfare, insurgency, revolt, insurrection, people's war, and fight for national liberation. It has been referred to as rebels, irregulars, insurgents, partisans, and mercenaries. It has historically been employed as a tool of protest to right wrongs committed against a population. Guerrilla warfare had a significant role in history during both the Cold War and World War II. Ethnic and religious disputes have also influenced it, continuing the usage of guerrilla troops in many nations today. Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL, were the most well-known practitioners of this kind. Predatory barbarians like the Goths, Huns, Magyars, Vikings, and Mongols, as well as King Edward I of England and Bertrand du Guesclin, adopted guerrilla and quasi-guerrilla tactics during the 100 Years' War. In bigger political and military campaigns like the Silesian Wars, 7 Years' War, South African War, Taiping Rebellion, American Civil War, and Mexican revolutions, guerrilla warfare proved to be a valuable ally. Political philosophy was the driving force behind the IRA, Mao Zedong's on guerrilla warfare, and the Cold War guerrilla campaigns of World Wars I and II. Guerrilla insurgencies and counterinsurgencies were funded by the Soviet Union and the US, which resulted in expensive proxy conflicts. Communist, non-communist, and terrorist guerrilla movements were active throughout the Cold War to overthrow governments and overthrow British authority in Palestine and Indonesia. Apartheid was abolished and universal suffrage was established as a result of Mao's victory in China in 1949, Ho Chi Minh's Viet Minh guerrillas, Che Guevara's fall of Batista in Cuba, and the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan and South Africa. Although terrorist tactics have always been a crucial component of guerrilla and counter-guerrilla warfare, urban guerrilla warfare was once perceived as a novel type of warfare. Terrorism in cities and abroad suffered from a lack of organization and recruitment, which ultimately contributed to its extinction. However, urban combat was crucial in bringing about peace. Drone. UAVs are military aircraft that can be controlled remotely, autonomously, or both. They can be equipped with sensors, target designators, offensive weapons, or electronic transmitters to disrupt or destroy enemy targets. The MQ-1 Predator, which made its first flight in 1994 and entered service the following year, is the most significant American tactical UAV. It has a 24-hour endurance and is propelled by a piston engine turning a pusher propeller. The MQ-9 Reaper is a bigger, turboprop-powered Predator version that performs better and can carry more ammunition. Both have been purchased by American allies and have been employed in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The Reduced Gravity program of NASA offers a zero-G setting for testing and reaction practice. The U.S. Air Force employs the Northrop Grumman RQ-4 Global Hawk as a strategic-range unmanned aerial vehicle to deliver intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance information to ground combatants. Small unmanned aerial vehicles are employed to allow ground combat units to see behind their front lines. Thanks to technological breakthroughs like drones, precision-guided bombs, and nuclear weapons, modern warfare has undergone a tremendous evolution over time. During World War I, trench warfare was a crucial technique, whereas guerrilla warfare rose to prominence during the Cold War. Conflicts nowadays are still being shaped by the development of combat techniques.